Hey there again. How's everybody going? Back to do another video, something a little bit more different. I've had a few inquiries about people wanting to know this droplet method. These are only coasters, very simple, but I actually did a larger piece, which turned out pretty good. That's the larger bit. It sort of looks like the moon. I did a couple of different colors on it and it all color shifts. But as always, start small and work up from there. See the color shift in that? These are ones I've done previously and they're really cool. Just a simple coaster and it's such a cool effect. So you can use just clear resin, put droplets into your silicone mold like I've done here, and then I've dry brushed these chrome mica powders which you can get through me, which are unreal. They are so super chromy. They are a little bit more expensive than my normal mica powders, but it is well worth it. Like the color shift and the chrome-like effect this has is unreal. This is brushed on top of the resin and on the silicone. So you can use normal resin, let it cure overnight, and then you dry brush over the droplets and the silicone itself. Or one way I've found is using UV resin. Putting droplets of UV resin, mostly curing it with the light, but not too much. Like this one here, I actually cured it too much and the mica powder doesn't stick as well, but it will still have a good effect. See, it changes from blue through to violet. This one here wasn't cured as much, and that's a chrome green and it goes through to blue or a jade color, but it's unreal. So cool. And this one here is an orange which goes through yellow and all the way through to green, but fantastic. But I'll do a little demo on what I do. This also gets then a normal black resin mixed, poured over the top. That gets cured overnight, and then you take it out of your mold the next day, and then you can buy little cork backing and perfect. With the wood, the cut MDF that I've been doing, same method again. I've just cut these MDF out, inserted them in the resin like I've done, then dry brush the back. I will do some more of these small ones that I've got here, but that's another video. But at the moment we're just doing these droplets. It's another hot day here in Australia, Busselton, southwest Australia. It's a huge country, so we're in the little western side, right down the bottom. Anyway, so this is the UV resin that I'm going to be using. You can use any type of resin. I'm curing it with this LED light. It's a 50 watt. It's pretty cool and it does the trick really well. You can use the one for the little nails where you stick your fingers underneath it, try your nail polish, whatever. But I've got this one here. I've also got a pen one and the nail one, but this I'm finding is really good. I don't cure the resin too much because when you turn it out, once you're completely done, if it is still a little bit tacky, you can actually finish off the cure when you take it out and then cure it just a little bit more so that the UV resin cures on the other side, and then that'll get all the way through. Once you put the mica powder on it, you can't cure it anymore because the UV light won't pass through to actually cure the resin. So you've got to do it on the other side of it. But for now, all we do is just put little droplets, wait till the little piece breaks off, and then you got your droplet. You can do them big, small, and just methodically go through. Try not to do a pattern, do them quite in irregular spaces. Normally you won't get any air bubbles, and then just go around. This is straight onto the silicone itself. I got these through a store here called Spotlight. It's just a craft store. It has sheets and crafty stuff and art stuff. And that's where I got them. But I'm sure you can get them off Amazon. The larger 30 centimeter round I got from Amazon. But these I just got from my local craft shop. They're not very deep, but enough, big enough for coaster size. Droplets are in. You can even put a little tiny one in here, just for some variations in your sizing. Well, that was supposed to be smaller, but that's okay. So that's the UV resin. Then all I do is hold my light over it, and I don't fully cure it. That is a must. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but you'll judge it after you do your first one, you'll know. So if you've worked with UV resin, you know just to don't cure it fully, and then you can do what I've done here. I've got here like probably 20 seconds now. I can take this off and just get my toothpick and test it. If it's hardish, it's fine. If it's still tacking to my nail, then that's where you stop, and then you just get your mica powder. These are my own colors there. They are so super chromy. There's these ones here are just super chrome. They are unreal. And then you just really dry brush over it. The resin will stick to your droplets that you've done, and remember, once you're finished and you tip this all out, you can cure it from the other side if it's a little tacky there. And then you just brush your silicone itself. No problem with the mica powder going onto the silicone. It's just the resin you've got to sort of, it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the idea, it's fine. But I love this dry brush method. Been working on it for a long time. Even years ago when I was doing ceramics, like 25 years ago, I used to dry brush my little dragons that I did. And all their scales picked up the dry brush as well. So it is really cool. And it's a really good method. When you do it on ceramic, you've actually got to glaze afterwards. And then on each of them, so that. But this is a very nice effect. I also did some where you can just, like with spare clear resin, just on a little mat. You can do little droplets, let that cure, and then you can collect them in a little jar. And then when you want to do this, you can just pop them on top of the silicone and do the same method, and most of the time that works too. And so if you're sort of having trouble knowing what to do with spare resin and you don't have a mold, just make droplets, or even color the droplets themselves and then put them on a mat, peel them all off once they're cured, and then you've got colored ones all ready to go. And then all you do is stick them onto your silicone mold and then just brush the mold, and then you'll have two different colors, which is really good, which I probably could actually do one now because I've actually got some spare. So I probably could show you that too. I did collect them in a jar, which are just these ones here. All nice and sparkly. But I did with them as well. And all you do with them, you can just, a bit of resin there you don't want in there. And you could just go around and put the flat bit down and just scatter these around. So this is just spare resin that I've had hanging around. A bit of a darker one there. Might just do a few different colours just to actually see what it's going to do, because I haven't tried this yet on these coloured ones. I've done it with clear, but not the coloured. And I think they'll work out pretty cool. One there and a little one here. Just push them down so that they stick a little bit better. Done. That's easy. Then all you do is you brush your silicone onto that. Or I should say, brush the powder onto the silicone. And then that just got a little bit of this purpley blue one, but that's okay. This is just a bit of a test one just to see what happens. Doesn't matter so much that you don't get the droplets, because that's not the idea of this. But if you get some on there and it puts a little bit more colour behind it, that's also a good thing. I probably should have dusted out my brush first, but it's okay. Happy little accidents can show up a new method of doing something. And then it gives you a good colour. That's how I found all my colours. I mixed them by accident and came up with something else. And that's what I ended up doing with all of this. So there's different size particles. These are very, very fine. So they're just unreal. They are so, so cool. And I keep saying that, but now I stock them, and hopefully the end of the month all goes well. I can start taking orders and then get them posted out to whoever wants them, really. But I've got a Facebook page now. It's called Catch the Light. I've got a YouTube, which I think is still under my name, Simon Foster, but I'll put a link in every time in the description of how to find all the bits and pieces that I link. But yeah, this one will go into YouTube, so that's alright, you'll find it straight away. So please subscribe, like, any comments, chuck them through and I'll be happy to answer. If you're interested in getting some of these fantastic colours, woohoo! Just send me an email and we can sort something out. I'm trying to keep the costs down, so they'll be sent out in these packages, these little Ziplocs, probably half the size of that. I'm hoping to do 5 grams is my weight, 3 and 5 grams. These super chrome ones will more than likely be 3 grams, and these other ones, which are still just as good, and that's what it is on this side. So you still get this great colour shift. But yeah, the super chromes are a little bit more expensive, but that's fine to get this result. You don't need a lot. It goes a long way, but they are so, so cool. I've done the 6 coasters. I'll mix up some black resin now, pour it in, and then we can come back tomorrow and unveil it, and we'll find out what it looks like together. But I'm pretty sure it will look really cool because I've done this before. But yeah, it's all good. Put your lids on everything, and even wipe down your UV resin so it doesn't get all inside the lid. UV resin will not cure on its own. It will out in the sun, especially over here with our sun being so intense. But lids on everything. Okay, so now I've got to pour some resin, so I need to move these out the way so I don't get any unmixed resin in it. But yeah, these are, like, I move around and they just keep changing colour. And when you've got all of them in front of you and you sort of move from the left to the right, and you've got like one colour on one side and another colour on the other, and it's it just messes with your brain just a little bit. But it's fun. Very interesting. And I really, really like working with them. This is my cup. I've actually lost my stir stick. That ended up somewhere else. Unless it ended up in the cup and I didn't. I've got a dud cup. It's okay, it's fine. I need the big tongue depressor ones rather than just a pop stick. That's fine. Here's one, I found one. Just makes it a bit easier to mix. But yeah, back to what I'm doing. This is what it looks like when it comes out. And when you wiggle it about, I can just stand here all day and do this. And in the sunshine, much, much better. In a good light, much better as well. Or even just on their own, just with your normal house light. It is really, really cool. I might just turn this just a little bit so you can see. That might be better, or I can just leave these up. Yeah, it's easier. I just don't want to get resin everywhere. But anyway, here you go. So now I've got to mix my resins. Like, it can be tedious, I'll be as quick as I can. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But sometimes if I go through the steps, like mostly I've done these, but sometimes people like to actually see you do it. Especially those who haven't worked with resin. So I use a 1-to-1 ratio. I find it's easier. You don't have to worry about going 60-40. I've never actually used them. I've only used this 1-to-1 method, and it seems to work for me. And I'm happy with that. There's not too much thinking. Get to know your resin. If you like one, stick to it. Like this one I'm finding is really good. It has a long curing time, which is what I like, especially when there's dry brushing involved. It's still a good resin to use any other time, but I want to have the option of having the long curing time for when I do pieces like the turtle that I've done and the dragonfly and the fish one, which I actually want to do again, but I'll do other projects as well. But the dry brushing, I just can't. I can't stop doing it. It is just great. I keep doing it and coming up with new ideas for different patterns, going from the mandalas, which works out really well, onto pictures, so to speak, of art or other kind of art. It's just like colouring in, really. That's why I love the resin so much. And this resin does have a slow curing time, so it's slightly tacky after 10 hours, and that's perfect for doing the dry brush. You can still, if it's totally cured, it's then like glass and it won't stick so much, but it still can be achieved, and you get like an antique kind of look, which is also another good look. But if it's got a slight tack to it, the mica powder is like dust and it just sits on it nicely. Oops. I've got to be careful when that plug comes out, because if it gets on anything, it will never cure. And I've done that before as well. I got a dud resin and there was crystals in it, and I mixed it and then used it, and then when it did cure, I had all these little almost grains of sand that didn't cure, and I was a little bit annoyed, but it was a very dodgy resin that I got. I tried it again just in case it was my wrongdoing, and the resin flash cured on me. And that was, I've never experienced that before, and that was a pretty scary moment. The resin just bubbled and smoked and popped, and I thought it was going to explode, so I never used it again. I did get it replaced 2 more times, and it didn't fix it. So it was it wasn't a cheap resin either, and I just let it go as I chalked it up to experience and never got the brand again. I was tempted to get it again, but on second thinking, I thought, no, I couldn't take the chance, and resin is not cheap. No matter what kind, even if it's a cheaper resin, it's still not cheap because you use it. But this one here is quite reasonable. I don't know, I got it off, what is it called? It's called JR resin, Just Resin Art Coat. So it works for this method really good, so I will be getting more. It's very reasonably priced. I don't know if you can get it on Amazon. I went to the site directly. In Australia, I know you can get it with a small delivery cost. But as for anywhere else, I'm not too sure. So I have to do a bit of research on that one. Where it's a 1-to-1 method. It's this one here, Art Coat, Just Resin, JR. Very good for this dry brush method. After 10 hours, I can do the dry brush, but you've got to be careful. You can probably do it at 9 hours and give yourself an extra hour, because as you're doing it, it continues to cure. So I know when I've done it after 10.5 hours, I only had about an hour's work time before it actually totally cured. And that was when I had to do the whole circle or a whole rectangle as well, not small bits. But I still got it done. But yeah, start small, get to know your resin, get to know your product, and you'll get the idea. But this dry brush, I love to dry brush, and I love to dry brush with these colors. And I'm so happy that I've managed to get colors that are very different than what's on the market. They might be on the market, I really don't know. I've never found them, which is why I've sort of come up with these. And I've now got a supplier of this in bulk, although it is still pretty expensive. But it works, and that's the main thing. If it didn't work, it probably wouldn't be worth it, but this does work. So if anybody is interested in these colors, drop me a line, email me, I'll leave that in the description. Like, subscribe, any comments, anything. Like, my art doesn't just revolve around resin or dry brushing. I also work with oils, I do paintings. I also like to paint with acrylic. I like to do landscapes. Never done portraits. I also keep bees. I produce my own honey, my own honeycomb. So I might even do a video of me getting some honeycomb. Just something a little bit different. And it's amazing what the bees can build. Just all cooperating with each other to achieve the same goal, and the patterns of their honeycomb is unreal, not to mention the honey that they put inside it. But yeah, I'll do a video of that as well, show you a bit of my backyard and other hobbies that I've got as well. But that's really, really cool. But yeah, there are lots of things you can do. At the moment, we're doing this droplet effect in these coasters. Might do it on a bigger one day, but I'll start little. But I always say start small before getting bigger. You actually don't use as much resin. This I'm doing 6 coasters, and I've probably got too much resin in here, so I'm going to have to think of something really, really quickly to do to use up the rest of it. So I might just get another coaster and I'll pour that, but I'll see what I've got left at the end of this. And I actually think this bench is actually a bit crooked too. I don't think it's level. But I need to put black in here, and that will top all of this off. I don't worry so much about the air bubbles in this because it's black. You're not going to see through it. So we're not working with having to get it clear. Clarity isn't what we're after. But I do burst the bubbles with isopropyl alcohol. I don't use a flame on silicone at all. I ruined a bunch of these when I used a little bit of a flame getting the bubbles out, thinking everything was all fine. Let it all cure, and I'd inadvertently melted some of the, well, not melted, but I heated it too much with the flame and it stuck to the resin and it took chunks out of all my molds. So I will never use a flame near silicone again. Use isopropyl alcohol, just a misting spray over the top is all you need. If I do a bench top where I've got no silicone involved, yes, use the flame. I've got a big blowtorch that I use, and I do benches with a blowtorch, spray paint and resin, and that is just so cool. Let's talk about fluid art. That is probably the most fluid you could go. Just having the full reign of a big bench and spray paint and a blowtorch, and it is unreal. I will do one day, but I need to get a better setup for video and so you can see the whole thing. But until then, we'll just stick with these small pieces. But I would love to show you how I do a bench. And even these colors can be used in that in combination with the spray paint. But it's just fantastic. I like to use metallics. Black's also good. And then just a stick, a little stick like this, or a bigger stick, a paint stick, and just drawing through the resin and getting a blowtorch and blowing it round, and it is very, 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 very cool. But yeah, like, subscribe. Any questions, anything that you would like to see me do, any questions about anything, if I don't know, I will endeavour to find out. But I'm glad that I can help and share my experiences, because that's what it's all about. This is almost ready to pour. It's nice and black. I just use any black. This is a Liquitex acrylic paint. It's Mars black, but I use Amsterdam lamp black, Matisse, another black, but I know black is not quite black with people. There's different blacks, but black is black, and that's all there is to it. And especially for this, just needs a very dark color behind it. Probably can be like even a real dark navy blue if you want. If you don't have black available, you might slightly change these colors, but not by much. But anyway, here we go. So I've now got to pour black into these, and then they just get left overnight to cure. But just simply pour it on. And that's basically all there is to it. Pour enough in. And the cork backing is available on Amazon as well. You can either get the size you need, or if you can't find the size and you've got a Cricut, buy the squares and then cut your circle out of that with your Cricut. Use it on the canvas cutting method, on the canvas setting, and more pressure, and that will allow the Cricut to cut through the cork. Cricut's also cool as well. I've done some stuff with that. So I used a bit too much resin at the beginning, so this last one, hopefully I've got enough to cover it. Sorry if my arm is in the way. Just enough resin. This still might be a little bit thinner, but it's fine. I'm happy with that. Happy that I had enough. I thought I was going to have extra, but that's all good. Very, very happy. Bit of resin there, bit on the board, and that's all cool. I think I actually got it all nice and straight. So that's all there, fine. So now I'll just go over with a little bit of the alcohol, isopropyl bit, blah blah blah. Just a misting over the top, pops most of the bubbles, but it's not a huge deal. You can live with it. You don't even see them. And then when you do tip it out, you'll get like a concave, because that's how resin dries, unless it's on a board and it flows over the side. But if you're in some kind of container like this, it's it'll dry concave. And then all you do is go over with some wet and dry sandpaper on your edges, and then stick your cork backing to it. There are some bubbles in the corner which you can just touch and it pops them. That's basically some of the powder has like extra powder that I've got in there, will just float to the surface in a bubble. But that's okay. It can form nice little patterns on the back, but you don't see that anyway. But that's all cool. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. This is the black. I will come back tomorrow and unveil it all so you can see the other side, which should look something like this, but with a really, really cool color change. As I said, these are all very, very chromy, and I think the best thing. But it will get the color change just like these ones. These were other ones that I've bought on the market, and these are all pretty good too. I was very happy with them, but I was determined to get a more chrome-like. I even did in my hubcaps on my car. I put color shift. I got some other type over here in Australia from over the eastern states, over the other side of Australia, of airbrush colors. And I did my car hubcaps, and now they have a color change from this color to a gold and to a green, and it looks very, very cool. But thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, any comments, and we'll unveil these tomorrow, and then we'll see what they look like. These will sit overnight now, so have a good night or enjoy the rest of your day. I know I will, and enjoy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.